It feels as if the dust around the entire China and US situation is starting to settle. Now, this is also at a time where it feels as if the entire market has reset, and I will talk about exactly what that means here in a moment. But let's first start off with a few things. Number one, we do know that Trump acknowledged the trade war. He essentially said that, hey, we are in a trade war with China, which it's no surprise there, right? We know that for the last roughly week and a few days, that this war between the US and China around tariffs has been heating up. Now, we also know that earlier yesterday, China essentially said that the US was causing panic over these rare earth controls to ultimately, cause it could either be manipulation of the markets, cause this massive panic, whatever the case may be, right? The main thing here is that China said that they were open to talks. Now, I've said it many times over that these massive political tensions that start to heat up over this is nothing, if we're being real, right? It's absolutely nothing. I feel like it's all noise. I think that when we start to see things like this and the markets are so scared and we see exaggerated sell-offs, I think that the best thing to do is just sit back, and if we see major discounts, yes, we buy the dip when we start to see a floor form, or we buy a little bit higher if the market is starting to bounce back and we start to flip key levels. But I wouldn't act impulsively. I wouldn't get scared. I wouldn't get worried or anything like that, because again, majority of the price action that we have been seeing in the space when it is negative is coming from liquidations. Now, talking about that, you might say, well, hasn't the market learned its lesson, right? Like over $20+ billion was liquidated over the last week or so. No, the market is not learning its lesson, right? We have $450 million liquidated from the crypto market in the past 30 minutes. That happened on the 16th. And then earlier yesterday, or today, if you will, $250 million was liquidated from the cryptocurrency market in the past 60 minutes. Sorry to interrupt the video, but gold just made a new all-time high yesterday. And if you want to catch the waves in both the precious metals market as well as the crypto market, ITrustCapital is your best friend. They offer both crypto and gold and silver trading, but that's not it. If you also want to tap into the IRA side of ITrustCapital to make sure that you are including both crypto and precious metals in your portfolio, you could do that. And also, premium custody accounts include both as well. So if you want to go and tap into this, you guys are more than welcome to in the description down below, as well as in the comments down below, utilizing my link where you deposit $1,000 and you get a free exclusive $100 funding bonus right now. So what are you waiting for? Sign up today. And with that being said, let's dive on back into the video. So we are constantly seeing more and more liquidations, and this is just one of many posts. If you're looking through some of the updates from these accounts, you'll see more liquidations happening. And this is all, accelerated by any big update around the China situation, or if we start to see, an increased drop on Bitcoin, which, by the way, if you guys did see earlier today, Bitcoin did hit 105K and it actually fell below 105K, which we'll also talk about here in a moment. But looking at the crypto market today, we do have a few things turning green on the daily, but for the most part, it's still a sea of red. And looking at this on the weekly, again, still a few things flipping green here, but it's still a sea of red, where HBAR is down 3.7%, XLM down 5.2%, and of course, yes, XRP is also still down as well. I mean, listen, this is not going to be an overnight everything jumps significantly sort of event. We're going to still see that 3 to 4 to even 5% down on the weekly view until we start to see Bitcoin bounce back. But XRP down to $2.33, Bitcoin hovering around 100 and almost 7K, Ethereum around 3,800. For the most part, there's not like a significant bounce happening at all here. Like I said, on the daily, there's a few altcoins that are flipping green, but we're still down at some significant lows on a lot of these altcoins, and we have yet to flip any significant levels just yet. So most of these moves that we are seeing, even on the weekly where we are seeing some pretty significant moves, most of them are just bouncing back off of the lows. Now we'll talk about that here in a moment. Now, what do I mean by the market reset? What do I mean when I say the market has reset, or, oh, we just witnessed a major reset? The main thing that we are looking at here is sentiment, okay? We now have people betting on Bitcoin falling below 100K. And by people, I mean retail. We have here odds of Bitcoin falling below 100K this month rised to 52%, according to Polymarket. This is crazy. There's a 25% chance of Bitcoin going below 95K and a 10% chance of below 90K. When we start to see retail betting on things like this, it goes to show you, number one, how bearish retail is, but also it goes to show you that majority of the retail sector still is expecting much lower. This is at a time where the fear and greed index over on CoinMarketCap just hit 25, the lowest point on this chart since going all the way back to April, right? And we're talking about almost down to the significant lows of extreme fear. And we also witnessed Bitcoin's fear and greed index falling to 22, which is extreme fear. This is what I mean by a market reset. And a better image is this one from Waters Above, which last week we were at 64, we were in greed, and now we're at extreme fear. This just reset the entire sentiment of the market, and we also got RSI completely reset, which allows the market to bounce back in a big way. This is what Bitcoin currently looks like on the daily. I warned you guys yesterday that we would be most likely filling the 702 and the 786 retracement zone if we lost 108K. We lost it on Friday, aka today, and this is where we did close around 106.4K, right in that blue zone. Now, the question is, are we bottomed? Because we did wick a little bit below it at about 103.6K. The question here of if we are bottomed or not. Well, that's going to the answer to that question, no one's going to have a 100% certain answer. The main thing that we are looking at, if we are bottomed here, okay, let's remove everything from the chart that is no longer needed because, again, we lost all of that support. If we're looking at this, let's say on the weekly, okay, here we have that massive, retracement level. Here we have this weekly candle. What are we looking at now? Well, number one, we want to flip the May highs. So we need to flip 109K. That's going to be a good start. That also flips the support zone from August and the beginning of September. All right, what's next after that? Well, we flip 112K. After we flip 112K, the next key level is our recent high wick on this chart, which is on our weekly view of 116K. After that, we need to flip all of that resistance, which took us to our previous all-time high. That would be 119.6K. And then, and only then, after we flip those levels, we could target the all-time high weekly closes. This looks like a lot of work to do, but guess what? It is. And this is exactly what happens when we have a massive sell-off the way that we just did. Our total drop on this chart now is 17.88%. This is a very good sell-off. This is a very good pullback, and it's one that aligns with some of our recent ones, which was like around 14%. The one from back in May into the summertime, also around roughly like 12%. So this aligns perfectly with a nice strong pullback, which can allow us to have a much stronger bounce. Again, I don't believe that we are, topped out on Bitcoin or anything like that. In terms of RSI, again, weekly RSI getting closer to those April lows and the March lows of this year, which is when the market bottomed out. Looking at this on like the 3-day, we're already almost close to those points of, RSI getting to the point where, we were at the most oversold level on Bitcoin so far this year. And then also looking at this on the daily, again, the daily, we are all the way down to like 35 here. That aligned perfectly with the April bottom. Again, are we bottomed out here? Well, we need to make some, we really need to see an impulsive move here and see some momentum on Bitcoin. But I would look at some of these first key levels being broken on the chart before we get ahead of ourselves here. So when will I officially call that Bitcoin has bottomed out? Well, I would call it after we flip the May high wick. We should be on a major reversal at that point, and we should start to see momentum building, and we should start to be, breaking these levels on the chart. And then after that, we really kind of just look at some closes above those key resistance levels. And when it comes to XRP or any altcoin in specific, yes, we are still going to see sell-offs. The main thing that we are looking at is just a floor to form on these charts, and for Bitcoin to bounce back in a big way that can take us to some key highs and flip some key levels. When it comes to XRP, the main thing that I'm looking at is like $2.70 being flipped. Until then, we're going to just chop. But it's not even just crypto and Bitcoin that's seen extreme fear. We also witnessed the S&P hitting extreme fear, and even the Cryptocurrencies letter said extreme fear. This is not what you see before a market crash. With the S&P 500 trading 2% away from a record high, a textbook sign of a bull market. And yeah, listen, when we are thinking about sentiment here, okay, across the board, we're seeing extreme fear. We're now seeing retail betting on Bitcoin hitting significant lows. This is at a time where we just witnessed a 17% collapse on Bitcoin. When it comes to the S&P, right, this is what the S&P looks like on the daily. We hit that low on the chart. We had a nice little impulsive move here. This is a great bounce. And, we're at extreme fear levels when we're just 1.5% away from all-time highs. I don't think that I need to tell you guys that these charts will not hit extreme fear when we are about to witness a collapse in the market. In fact, we will hit extreme fear before we start to see a violent recovery in these markets. We will also see extreme fear right before we go absolutely crazy and lead into the most hated rally ever, because everyone is on the sidelines because they are scared, they are panicking, they are worried about what happens next. And that's why the Cryptocurrencies letter said a textbook sign of a bull market. Pullbacks become oversold quickly and upswings grind higher. The same can be said with rapid shift and polarization of sentiment amid the current bull run. Because again, markets do not top on extreme fear. Markets do not top on people panicking. Markets top on euphoric levels. We have yet to see euphoric levels hit this market. You might say, all right, well, what about when Bitcoin was at 125K? Even then, and I just talked about this actually in my recent video where I talked about how 10 days ago we hit an all-time high, but you probably wouldn't believe it because all of the comments were negative, because at that time, Bitcoin was basically the only thing running. So when it comes back to where, this market goes next, and, if we are bottomed, I would argue that we probably are bottomed here, especially with extreme fear being targeted, especially even with extreme fear hitting the S&P as well. We just take it one step at a time here, but, I really do think that this was an exaggerated move across the board. And, next week could look extremely different, especially with the S&P grinding. We are also counting down the days to the next FOMC meeting, which is about roughly like 2 weeks away. So, when it comes back to everything, I feel like this is going to be one of those times in crypto history that we look back on and say, it was so obvious that we bottomed out there, and, everyone was still panicky. Everyone was still worried and concerned. everyone was still, you know, trying to gamble the market and getting liquidated, causing a much larger collapse in the market at a time where if they just stacked spot orders, they would be in significant profits. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely like, subscribe, turn notifications on because of more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.